The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning, everyone. We want to welcome you to our webinar today. We're really excited to hear about ChargeLogic and how they can save us time and money in processing credit card payments. Just a quick reminder to everybody, if you have a question, feel free to type it into the question box. I'll call it out and get it answered. Also, we will have the recording of this webinar up on our website later today. So that's abc-computers.com. So if you want to rewatch, if somebody else in your organization you think should take a look, we'll have that for you later today. Without further ado, Karen, I will hand it over to you.
Great, thank you, Abby. So I'm Karen Tran, I'm the Marketing Manager with ChargeLogic, and I want to thank you for taking some time out of your day today. We're going to talk about some hidden threats and areas that may be taking time and money away from your business. We're going to talk about those things and how ChargeLogic may be able to help you save some money and time in your business processes. So I want to start by telling you a little bit about ChargeLogic. So we are known for our flagship solution, ChargeLogic Payments, which provides payment processing and credit card processing right inside of NAV. But we do a lot more than straight payment processing. We have a product, it's actually a cloud-based service called ChargeLogic Connect. So if you have an e-commerce website, ChargeLogic Connect can help you take payments and orders from your website and get the data into NAV. That's just a few of the solutions. We also provide tokenization, which takes credit card data off of your servers and stores them in our cloud. And then we have a service called click-to-pay invoicing and statements, where you can send your customers an invoice via email and they can pay it right online. We also have ChargeLogic Shipping, so it's integrated shipping right inside of NAV, and it provides accurate rate quotes to help lower credit card processing fees. And then finally, we have ChargeLogic Notify, and it provides customized targeted emails for NAV. So like when you're shopping on Amazon, for instance, and you place an order and you get an email right away that gives you an order confirmation. That's what Notify does. It enables you to send out emails to your customers throughout the order fulfillment cycle. And this diagram here shows a little bit of how the process works. So let's say you have your customer here, we'll call her Miss ChargeLogic today, and she wants to place an order for one of your products. So here's your product, and she can do that via mail order, phone, mobile, e-commerce site, or at one of your stores. And within NAV, ChargeLogic Payments processes the payment. And Ms. ChargeLogic then gets an email confirmation through our Notify product saying, you know, if she placed an e-commerce order or a phone order, she gets that email saying, here's your order. And that it's going to be on its way soon. So your item goes to the warehouse, you use ChargeLogic Shipping to pack it up and ship it out, and then Ms. ChargeLogic gets a shipment notification via email, and then the credit card is settled. So your customer has a smooth experience, you've communicated with the customer, and you on your end operationally have had a smooth experience throughout the order fulfillment cycle. So we're going to jump into some of the threats and some of the things that could cost your business money and time. And one of the biggest issues is data breaches that could threaten your business. And what we have up on the screen here is all the businesses that have suffered from data breaches. And these are big name businesses. And so if they can suffer a data breach, then it's possible that you can too. And a data breach is when somebody basically breaches your systems and steals your data. And most likely with you, it's going to be credit card data that you're going to be concerned about. So data breaches cost you money and lost business, fines, resources, and recovery. So according to a study by the Ponemon Institute, and I know that sounds like a fake name, but they are real, and they've been doing these research studies for the last 9 or 10 years, where they do a global study of the cost of data breaches, and they say that a data breach costs around $200 per stolen record, and that cost can be per day. So how do you stay safe? Well, one way for you to stay safe and avoid a data breach is to use a PCI validated payment application. That means you're going to use software that is PCI validated to accept credit cards. And another way to avoid data breaches is to tokenize that credit card data. And what that means is that you're not storing it on your servers. You're using a tokenization service that then tokenizes the data and gives you a token back, so that if your systems are breached, then you don't have any credit card data on your servers, and that can help you avoid a breach. So about a year ago, one of our ChargeLogic customers suffered a data breach. They are using our ChargeLogic Payments software and our ChargeLogic Connect service to manage their e-commerce site and for phone and mail orders. And what happened was there was some malware that was installed on their web server, but their credit card data was safe because they weren't storing any credit card data on their servers. They were tokenizing it and storing it on ChargeLogic servers. So that malware was there, but it didn't have access to anything, so no data was stolen. And they avoided a data breach. So they invest the money into the services and software that they need, which sometimes, you know, it's like insurance. You know, you invest the money in it, and sometimes it feels like an expense, but eventually, you know, it feels like this threat is so real to all retailers and all businesses that it's going to end up saving you on the back end. So really important. So let's talk a little bit about PCI compliance and why you should be compliant to help avoid data breaches. So PCI DSS stands for Payment Card Industry Data Security Standards, and any business that accepts credit cards is required to follow these data security standards. So these are rules that apply to a wide range of things, from physical building security to how your data is stored. So it's not just about the software that you're using, it's about a holistic approach to securing your business. And there are a lot of rules involved in being PCI compliant. So people ask us, you know, why comply? And the short answer really is money. So the goal of PCI DSS is to help merchants avoid data breaches and to limit the severity of a data breach if one does occur. So being PCI compliant is required in your merchant agreement with your payment processor or your bank. Non-compliance, it can result in additional fees and fines from your bank or your payment processor. If you do suffer a breach and you're not compliant or you're not in the process of becoming compliant, that is a strong indicator that you're not following best practices, and that can lead to, you know, bad public image, and it can cause your customers to lose confidence in your business and shop elsewhere. And the biggest issue for why you need to comply is if you're not PCI compliant or not attempting to be PCI compliant, then you lose the ability to grow your business. So if you want to open new merchant accounts, you have to be PCI compliant. So you need new merchant accounts if you want to open new stores, or if you want to switch payment processors because you're rate shopping and you found a processor that offers a better rate. In those cases, you need a new merchant account, and your bank or your processor is going to ask you if you're PCI compliant before giving you a merchant account. So those are some important reasons why you want to be PCI compliant. So another area where you could be losing money is with downgrades. And we say that downgrades are really the black hole of credit card processing. So what is a downgrade? So downgrade means that you are paying more for your processor to handle specific transactions than the rate that you've negotiated. So the problem with downgraded transactions is that you often don't realize that you're being charged for them. So you get a bill from your bank or your payment processor, and all the fees are typically lumped together in one, and you don't realize where the downgrades are. But if you're processing your transactions wisely, then you could have saved thousands in fees. So let's talk a little bit about the rates from the payment processors. So when you negotiate a deal with a payment processor or with your bank, you sign an agreement to a specific rate, and it's typically a percentage of each transaction. So let's say the qualified rate is 1.75%, and that's the qualified rate. But you only get that rate if everything is perfect with the transaction. So some of the factors that make a perfect transaction include like verifying the address, where the zip code and the street address match, or the amount that you authorize matches what you settle for, or you settle within 48 hours, or if it's a consumer credit card, not a corporate credit card. So all these factors determine if you get the qualified rate. But if any of your transactions fall outside of this perfect transaction, then it's downgraded and you are paying a higher rate. So that rate could be as high as 2.5%, 2.75%. It just depends on what your processor, rates the downgraded rate. And then you could be paying thousands extra in fees. Meanwhile, you think you've negotiated this great rate, but you're not even getting that rate that you negotiated. So you often can't tell which transactions are downgraded if you don't realize why they're downgraded. You just know you get a big bill from the processor and you pay it and you go about your business. So let's talk about some of the things that might be causing downgrades. So a lot of downgrades occur due to just normal business practices. So like anytime there's a difference between the authorization and what you settle, you get a downgrade. And some instances where this occur are things like with partial shipments due to back orders. So let's say somebody places an order, you authorize the credit card for the full amount, and then you realize that one of the items is out of stock. So you put it on back order. So then you go to settle, but you settle for less than what you've authorized. So even though it's less, because the settlement doesn't match the authorization, it's downgraded. And if you don't have functionality to do a reversal for that order, then you don't have the option to get the qualified rate. So another area that we see for downgrades is when freight is added after the order is taken and authorized. So what happens is if businesses don't have the ability to get accurate rate quotes when an order is taken for freight, accurate rate quotes for the freight, then oftentimes they'll authorize the card, send the order to the warehouse, and then the warehouse will backfill the order with the freight amount, and that's going to cause you to downgrade, and again, could cost you thousands of dollars. Another area is if there's too much time between the authorization and the settlement. So if you authorize a card and then you don't settle it for, usually it's like a week or so, you get downgraded. If address verification is not being performed, or if it's not an exact match and you ignore that, then you get a downgrade. Another area is with commercial cards. So commercial cards, corporate cards, government cards contain data called level 2 and level 3 data. And that data could be things like, there's a whole list of things it could be, but it could be things like line level discounts or tax rates or item codes or tracking numbers, or just depends. And usually you don't know which of your customers are using commercial cards unless you are a B2B business, and then the majority of them are. If your processor doesn't process level 2 and level 3 transaction data, you're automatically getting downgraded. And if your payment application doesn't process that information, then you're going to get downgraded. Not swiping cards if you're in a card-present environment, that's going to give you a downgrade. charging PIN debit as a credit is going to give you a downgrade. And I also want to point out that the CVV number does not cause downgrades. So some people think that they need to have the CVV number saved and stored in your system. And this is actually against PCI compliance rules. You never save that information. It doesn't cause a downgrade. The whole purpose of CVV numbers is to prove that the person who's making the purchase has the card with them. So e-commerce sites will ask for that information really to help with fraudulent transactions. So I just wanted to point out that it doesn't cause downgrades. And one area or one place where you can go to find out like how much you're spending on downgraded transactions is with your payment processor or your merchant services representative, either through your bank or, like I said, your payment processor. You can ask them to do an account analysis. And this is something that you might want to do monthly or quarterly or at least annually, so that you can find out, if you have areas in your business that you could improve upon to help save money. So the next area is manual processes. And when we get into a routine of certain workflows and doing things certain ways, and really there's places where manual processes really cost you money in time, in errors, and in duplicate processes. So if you are, for instance, processing credit cards in one system outside of NAV, and then you have to put the data inside of NAV, you're doing double duty every time you have to enter and process payments in two systems. And that can really cause errors, which cost you money and can really lead to headaches like this poor woman here. So there are many places where you can automate your processes so that you don't look like this on a day-to-day basis. And one of the things you can do is you could start by taking credit card payments inside of NAV with a PCI validated payment application like ChargeLogic. And your payment application should be able to do some of the following automated processes. So for instance, the cash receipts journal should automatically populate and cash should get applied to the correct document every time a card is charged. Or you should be able to set up recurring payments for automated processing for repeat transactions. You should be able to do batch processing of payments. Or if you have an e-commerce site, you should be able to have the orders import into NAV automatically and create the sales order with the payment information. And this could really free up some time in your business so that you can focus on more strategic initiatives instead of doing manual processes. And finally, fraud costs you. And I feel like this is one of the most painful areas when you feel people stealing from you. So fraud differs from data breaches. Because data breaches, it means somebody's breaking into your system typically or getting access to your data somehow. If somebody has a hard drive with data on it and it's lost, that's also considered a data breach. Where fraud typically means that somebody is using stolen or compromised credit cards to steal from you. So we had a retailer come to us with a fraud problem, and what was happening is their e-commerce site, they get a rash of orders using the same address, but different names and different credit card numbers. So they were using stolen cards and having stuff shipped to them. But because they weren't using any address verification, the charges were going through with no problem before anybody was the wiser, and the product was being shipped out. And so they took a significant loss on product. But there are several ways that you can protect your business from fraud. Again, you want to use a payment application that has fraud protection features like address verification, verifying the CVV or the card security code for e-commerce sites. That means that the person has the card with them, because sometimes thieves can purchase credit card data and it's not complete. If you have the CVV number, that can help. Setting amount ceilings and floors. And what this means is that oftentimes when thieves use a stolen credit card, they will test the card first. So they'll go and they'll make a really low-cost purchase, like for $1, say. And if it works and they see the credit card's valid, then they'll go on a spending spree. So if you set certain ceilings and floors, they can set off warnings and triggers to you to say, hey, you might want to look at this person, this card number that's shopping, and maybe put a hold before you ship your product, and review just to make sure it's not a fraudulent charge. You can do velocity checking to see the same card number or customer that's attempting to make a lot of purchases in a set time period. And also doing things like bill to ship to address discrepancy. So if you're in a business that doesn't tend to ship a lot of gifts, then typically your bill to ship to addresses should match. And if they don't, you want to have some triggers that say, hey, check out this purchase, it could be fraudulent. So all these things are pretty heavy and disturbing for your business, but there is hope. So with ChargeLogic's products and services, we can help you avoid things like data breaches, downgrades, manual processes, and fraud. So I'm going to dive into some of our products and talk about how our products can help you avoid these things. So starting with payments, this is our flagship product. It's the only PCI validated credit card processing software that is integrated with NAV and connects directly to the payment processors. So the value that it provides to you is security, automation of processes, and lower credit card processing fees. And there's no other product on the market that does this for NAV. Most of the other products, the few that exist, connect to gateways and you end up with more fees and more downgrades typically. So ChargeLogic Payments helps you to avoid data breaches. As I mentioned, it's PCI validated. It is the only product integrated with NAV that is PCI validated. Out of the box, it encrypts the credit card data, and that is PCI compliant, but it means it stores it on your servers. So when you go through a PCI compliance audit, you have to have those servers audited as well. And it is secure, and like I said, it is compliant. But if you want to be even safer and take your servers out of scope for compliance, we also offer the ability to tokenize your data. So you can, and that means it takes the credit card data off of your servers, stores it on a third-party server, whether it's a ChargeLogic servers or somebody else's, and tokenizes the data. ChargeLogic Payments also automates processes. It's loaded with features, all listed here. So like for instance, you can enter a card number once and the information is stored by customer or contact. You can assign a default card for customers, and that default number will automatically populate the sales order, and the system will authorize and settle the card at the right time without you having to do any extra work. The cash receipts journal automatically gets populated and cash gets applied to the correct document when the card is charged. You can set up recurring payments for subscription scenarios or repeat transactions. And you can also batch process payments. And from, I talked to a lot of our customers, and I've had customers tell me that ChargeLogic Payments has freed up 25 to 50% of a full-time person for many of them, so they can then focus on other things or grow their business. And it also just helps to eliminate a lot of headaches. ChargeLogic also comes with a fraud protection suite. So this is designed to protect you, the merchant, and it has flexible settings. So you could do everything from set it to warn you, to hold a transaction, or to completely deny a transaction, depending on your business needs. So you have flexibility to make it work for you. And you can also avoid downgrades. So ChargeLogic has advanced features that enable you to perform reversals for things like partial shipments, and then you can authorize for the correct amount to ensure that you authorize and settle for the same amount, and that avoids a downgrade. Also, with freight added after the authorization, you can do a reversal in that instance. It does address verification. We talked about the level 2 and level 3 data. ChargeLogic does process that data, and if you have a payment processor that also processes that data, then you're going to avoid downgrades for level 2 and level 3 transactions. We have the ability to integrate with PIN pads if you're doing counter sales. We can also then accept credit and debit transactions. So ChargeLogic Payments helps you avoid data breaches, downgrades, manual processes, and fraud. Our next product is ChargeLogic Connect, and this is actually a cloud-based service that you can subscribe to. It is PCI certified. That's the highest accreditation that you can get for a service from the PCI Security Standards Council. So it is audited annually and scanned quarterly to make sure that it is keeping up with its certification. So as I mentioned, Connect is a subscription-based service. You pay a monthly fee to use the service, and then you pay transaction fees depending on which services you choose. So currently there are 5 different offerings with Connect, and you can add or subtract, as I said, as your business grows. So ChargeLogic Connect is always based on the foundation of ChargeLogic Payments running inside of NAV. So you have to purchase payments before you can start using the cloud-based service. And there's the Connect Cloud. So we're going to start with the first service, which is tokenization, and we call that our secure remote storage service. And what that does is it takes your servers out of scope for PCI compliance, meaning if you do a compliance audit, you don't have any credit card data on your servers. We store that information in our cloud. So what happens is you put a credit card number into NAV, and we take that number and we send it off to our cloud-based system, and it generates a token, and it all happens really quickly. So it happens within a second. And we send that token to your NAV system where it's stored. So it really helps you to decrease your risk of a data breach. So our next services are around e-commerce integration. We have ChargeLogic Checkout and ChargeLogic Hosted Payments. And really what it is it's the ability to accept credit cards on your e-commerce site and have the data flow into NAV, and that's what both of these services do. So general hosted payments enables you to accept payments on your credit or on your e-commerce site, and it's really taking the payment outside of your NAV system. It gets an authorization approval in real time, and because that authorization happens outside of your NAV system, you don't have to worry about NAV being up and running. So most of the time your system is up and running, but every once in a while I'm sure you take it down to do maintenance. We hold the credit card and transaction data in our cloud service for you, and your NAV system periodically checks in with ChargeLogic Connect and pulls in those payments to your NAV system as if they were native payments. So that's how the e-commerce integration piece works for payments overall. Now what we've done with ChargeLogic Checkout is this completely removes the credit card payments from your website. So if you don't want to have any credit card payments touching your website at all, you can use either a hosted payment page, which when somebody's visiting your website, they go to make a payment, it goes to our page. We put your logo here, we put your colors, but other than that, the format's pretty standard, and then they check out. Another option, if you don't want to have them leave your site, is we can do an iframe window, and it's this piece right here. So this means that they stay on your site, but we plug this in, and they can check out in this iframe, and then the credit card data is never on your website. So the difference between doing the hosted payment page and the hosted payment window versus just straight hosted payments is that you can't add any additional fields here. And as I mentioned, this completely removes your website from having any credit card data and then the burdens of being PCI compliant. But if you want to have your page where you take your payments be completely customized, then you can go with the hosted payment option.
Karen, I do have a question about that, what you just showed us there with the hosted payment page.
Mm-hmm.
Are the credit card numbers that are entered in NAV encrypted upon entering, so there is no record on site whatsoever?
I believe that they are encrypted. You enter them, they're encrypted, and then they are stored in on your NAV server. So if you go with a straight encryption, so that's if you're using ChargeLogic Payments without tokenization. Now we provide, if you're going to use ChargeLogic Connect to do web transactions, you might as well go ahead and use tokenization because that comes free with your subscription. And in that instance, the data is tokenized. The credit card data is entered, it is tokenized, and then no information is stored on your NAV servers. They're stored on our servers.
Great.
I hope I answered clearly. Okay, great. So the next service that falls into Ecommerce Integration for ChargeLogic Connect is hosted orders. So we talked about how you can take a payment on a website and get it into NAV, and hosted orders does that with orders. So if you use both hosted orders and hosted payments, it's all bundled into one and takes all of the data from your website and gets it into NAV. So the ChargeLogic Connect service holds the orders until your NAV system's ready to take the order. So just like with payments, you don't have to have NAV up and running in order to accept orders outside of NAV. And you can set it up so that NAV pulls orders in every 5 or 10 minutes or on demand. And I also want to point out, if you are doing e-commerce, ChargeLogic Connect has an API. So if you have your own custom site and you want to use hosted payments or hosted orders, you can have your web developers, write the integration to our services. But if you're starting out new and you're looking for an e-commerce platform, also known as a web shop, these are some of the partners that we've worked with, although we can work with anybody. So Santa and Nav2Net market themselves as true NAV integrated e-commerce platforms. Dynamic Web also has an integration to NAV. Malibu Commerce is a connector between Magento, which is an open source platform, and so Malibu is the connector between NAV and Magento. And Not Commerce and Magento are open source platforms. But as I said, if you have a custom site, if you have a different provider, your web developers can, write the code to our API to make hosted payments and hosted orders work with ChargeLogic Connect. And finally, in our e-commerce integration area is gift cards. So you can offer a gift card program that works throughout your various sales channels, whether it's e-commerce, retail, mail order, or phone, and we can manage the balances in a centralized location for you. And what gift cards really do is they help to eliminate fraud. So what happens today with just the speed and access of smartphones and wireless communications is sometimes people can go into your store and they can shop on their iPhone, use the gift card, and then make a purchase in the store minutes later and use that same gift card because the balances haven't been updated. But because ChargeLogic Connect gift cards uses our servers to maintain transaction details, the balances are always up to date on the web, in the stores, and in the back office. So this product helps you to really eliminate fraud. And our last service that we're going to talk about with ChargeLogic Connect falls into the account receivable category. So we offer something called click-to-pay invoices and click-to-pay statements, and they help with collections. What happens is click-to-pay sends a copy of an invoice to the ChargeLogic Connect server where a PDF is generated, and then it's sent out via email automatically. and I'll show you what that looks like. So this is the email that goes out. It has the invoice attached and has this little click to pay button, and your customer can click it and they're taken to a secure website where they can make payment either with check or with credit card. And you can couple this service with our Notify product, which is separate from Connect, and let me show you what that looks like really quickly. So what Notify does is it allows you to make customized emails within NAV, and this is not an attachment. This is actually the email, and you can put your logo here, you can put your colors here, and you'll see that this email has this click to pay button. So if you don't like the look of this, you have the option to purchase our other product, Notify, and make your emails look like this, which I think looks really great. And we use this product in-house. Our customers love it. We love it. It makes things really easy. And with Click to Pay, you can send emails to multiple people, so it's really helpful. So ChargeLogic Connect helps you to avoid data breaches, downgrades, manual processes, and fraud. So we're halfway through our products. Our next one is ChargeLogic Shipping. So it is one of the few shipping products that's truly integrated with NAV. There's a lot of shipping products out there that connect with NAV, but our product is truly integrated. And ChargeLogic Shipping was created because we started in credit card processing. And what we saw is that many of our customers were not generating accurate rate quotes when an order was placed. And as we talked about earlier, for credit card orders, this was causing downgraded transactions because the settlement amount didn't match the amount for which the card was authorized. So, that really bothered us, and we wanted to make a solution that provided accurate rate quotes, and that's how ChargeLogic Shipping was born. So we made it really easy to use. We made it with a small footprint in NAV, so if you have other NAV add-ons, it's not going to take a lot of space because it is integrated. You take the ChargeLogic Shipping objects, you put them into NAV, and some of the other products take up a lot of space, and that can be problematic if you have multiple add-ons. We are integrated with UPS and with the U.S. Postal Service, but we are also currently integrating with FedEx, and we expect that to be completed by the end of the summer. So with this direct connection with carriers, you'll get the carrier rates in real time. So this allows you the ability to rate shop for your customers also, and you can provide them with the best options available. So like sometimes, you'll pull up all the rates for UPS, for instance, and you'll realize that you can send something ground and it's going to get there in the same amount of time as overnight, but the cost is different. And so you can help your customers out with that to get the best rate. We also offer package-based management, so you can identify what items are in which packages. And the Smart Pack technology and the Smart Weight technology really help to provide accurate rates at the time the order is placed. And just to tell you a little bit of that is that Smart Pack identifies the weight of the items as well as the weight of the packaging to determine the accurate freight quote. And the way that it works is that it allows you to store the weights and the physical dimensions of all the items. And you don't have to have all that information for every item. So if you're thinking like, oh, I'm going to have to put all this information into my NAV database, what you can do is you can store items and group them by category in NAV, in the NAV category field or product group field or the item level. And then when an order is placed, Smart Pack identifies the dimensions of all the items, and it tells you what size boxes are needed for the shipment so that you can give accurate freight quotes. And then what Smart Weight does is it can update items as you use the system. So like let's say that you sell CDs and you pretty much know that all the CDs are the same weight, but there's some differences depending on if there's 2 CDs in one package or one. You can put them all in one category, and then SmartWeight will learn more about your items as you ship them, and it will backfill the item card so that your weights get more and more accurate. And then the last feature that I'll touch on today with shipping is the user interface is really easy to use. So in the warehouse, your workers don't have to learn specific detailed commands. They can use F keys or they can use a keyboard and mouse. So we tried to make it really easy to use. So ChargeLogic shipping really helps to eliminate downgrades as well as manual processes. And lastly is our ChargeLogic Notify product. Now, all of our other products really focus on lowering credit card processing fees, but Notify was developed to help with customer service as well as to help you automate processes. And what it is it's customized targeted email notifications for NAV. And as I mentioned before, when you shop on an e-commerce site, when you place an order, you expect to get an email that says you've placed your order and give you some details about it. And then when your product ships, it's great to get a shipping confirmation and a tracking number so you can follow your item. And Notify gives you that ability. So this is a sample of what, and I showed this earlier when we did the Connect Click to Pay, and this is also contains a click to pay button. But you have the option to put whatever colors in you want, put your logo in. You could make it 100% customized. You would have to have some HTML ability to do that. And if you don't have HTML ability, we do provide, I think, 7 or more templates that you can use and that you can easily put your logo in. So, you could really do whatever you want with the communications. It also allows you to send out to multiple contacts. It will suggest contacts for you if it thinks that they're associated with a document. So it's a really smart way to provide customer service and help to automate some of your processes. So that's what it automates processes. So using ChargeLogic products and services can help you save time and money and then make you happy. I did just want to touch on one thing. We have this return on investment document here, and this really goes back to ChargeLogic Payments, which is the core of our credit card processing. And what this shows is a comparison with Dynamics Online Payments, and that's the product that you get free with Microsoft Dynamics NAV. So Dynamics Online is not PCI validated. It may be PCI compliant, but it is not validated. It uses a gateway. ChargeLogic does not use a gateway. ChargeLogic goes through payment processors. You can use a gateway. But what you'll notice here really where the fees add up are in the downgraded fees. So it's our estimate that after a year of using Dynamics Online payments, that you may have a downgrade fees to this number, whereas using a ChargeLogic, you'd have a much lower downgraded fees, transaction fees from your payment processor. So why is this? Well, it could be lots of reasons. It could be that it just doesn't have the features to enable you to get the qualified rate. It could be that it doesn't process level 2 and 3 transactions. There could be a lot of reasons, but it just does not have the features. So sometimes when you compare costs of what you're spending, what you're investing outright, it really doesn't do justice to what you're going to spend overall. And that's where I recommend you go to your merchant services provider and say, do we have a problem with downgrades, and is that something that we should look at? It's not the only reason to invest in ChargeLogic. I mean, they're the reasons that I mentioned with PCI validation as well as the automation of processes, but I thought this is important to point out. And if you're interested, we can give you a ChargeLogic savings assessment, and if that's something you're interested in, you can email me or you can go to our website and just hit our contact link and fill it out and put in the subject line that's what you're interested in. And what we'll do is we'll just talk with you and find out, like, what are you doing now? What are your processes? How are you processing payments? How are you shipping things? And help you identify areas where maybe you can save time and money. And it's not a hard sell. It's really just, an opportunity to share our knowledge with you and to find out, if there's a way that we can work together. And if not, maybe you're just a little bit wiser and how to save money maybe in some different ways, or maybe you're all squared away. So if you are interested in seeing a demo of any of the products that we talked about today, we typically offer public demos monthly. Here are some dates for our next public demos. You can go online and register and really see the products in detail, how they work and how they work within NAV. And that's all I have for you today. I hope that everybody found this to be helpful. I hope you learned a little something. And Abby, do we have any questions?
Yes, they're still coming in here, but let's see what we've got so far. Does using ChargeLogic make our business PCI compliant?
It doesn't. Using ChargeLogic alone does not make you compliant. It can contribute to helping you become compliant, but there are so many things that a business needs to do that are outside of the realm of what we do, everything from physical access. So we can definitely help you become compliant, and we can help make your audits easier, but we aren't the answer. It's not that easy to just saying, oh, I bought this software and now I'm compliant.
Okay, awesome. We've got another one here. Does ChargeLogic charge transaction fees?
So if you're using ChargeLogic Payments, that's a software, and your transaction fees would come from your bank or your payment processor. So for payments, we don't charge transaction fees. But ChargeLogic Connect actually works as a gateway. So, and you almost, 99.9% of the time, if you are using an e-commerce site, you have to be using a gateway because payment processors typically won't connect directly to an e-commerce site. So there are transaction fees for Connect, but we only charge fees for payments for the authorization, not the settlement. So there is some savings there.
Okay. What version of NAV is required for this, and do we have to be NAV web-based?
I heard you, what version of NAV is required for this, and then you cut out, or was
I'm
that
sorry
the end?
about that. Do we have to be NAV web-based?
Okay, so I'm pretty sure that we work with NAV 3.6 and up, but I would need to double check that. But the last that I knew, we were doing 3.6 and up. Do you have to be NAV web-based? Does that mean you're running on that you're doing SaaS, or do you have to use a NAV e-commerce platform? So I can answer both of those questions, actually. So you don't have to be running NAV web-based. You can have, NAV on-premise. And in terms of e-commerce, you can have you don't have to have a NAV e-commerce site. You can have any kind of e-commerce platform that you want, anything.
Okay, great. Do I have to change banks to use ChargeLogic?
We integrate with over 22 payment processors. So we have certifications with with all the major processors. So it's highly probable that your bank works with one of our processors, but we would need to check just to make sure. And also it can be a good time for you to rate shop, to go to payment processors and try to find the best rate for you.
Wonderful. If anyone else has any questions, go ahead and type them into the question box. As we give everybody just a couple more minutes on questions here, I just want to remind everyone that we are recording this session and it will be up later today on the ABC website, abc-computers.com. Let's see here. Are the credit card numbers that are entered in NAV encrypted upon entering so there is no record on site whatsoever? I think I may have asked you that one already.
Yeah, we did. Yes, they're encrypted, they're entered, they're encrypted, and they're stored on your servers. So that's out-of-the-box payments. If you choose to use our tokenization service or another tokenization service, then they are tokenized upon entry, and they are not kept on your servers. I know that's how it works with our tokenization. I would have to double check if you chose to use a different tokenization provider. And I do just want to point out the benefits to using ChargeLogic tokenization versus another provider. So a lot of times if you do tokenization with another provider, your payment processor, gateway, if you change processors, they will not give you your data back, where we will. So that's just something to know about. One of the advantages to using ChargeLogic tokenization.
Great. Well, Karen, it looks like that is an end to our questions. So we're just so glad you could be here today. It was a really informative webinar. I know that credit card transactions is a big headache if you don't know what you're doing. So we're so glad you could present for us today.
Great. Well, I'm happy to be here and really happy to have the opportunity to share what I know about the industry with you all. So thank you.
Thank you so much, everyone. We will have a great day. We hope you will have a great day, and we'll get that recording up this afternoon. With that, we will say goodbye.
Bye-bye.